Hey guys, so in today's video I'm going to be teaching you how to make watercolor in two different ways. The first one's a little easier and requires a little less practice and materials, and the second one's a little bit more difficult. If you enjoy this video, please be sure to subscribe and leave it a thumbs up down below. So for the first method, this one is a little bit easier, and basically you don't need as much things, and most things are kind of regular things you have in your house. You can use watercolor paper, that's what I'm using, or you can use normal paper. Just make sure you put something down to stop the bleed through. A plastic bag, a spray bottle with water, and then you'll need some markers, around 2 or 3 colors. I'm using the Tombow Dual brush pens, and I'm kind of doing a purple theme for this one, but you can pick whatever colors you want. And then lastly, just some tissues or a towel to help clean up the mess. Then you're basically just going to take the markers and color them onto the plastic bag how you want it to look on the paper. So you don't want to go with colors that are too light because they won't really show up on once you press it onto the paper. And you also kind of want to make colors that look well together or will blend nicely together, because they will blend together once you press it down onto the page. And basically you just kind of want to make it look as you want, so you can make it as big as you want or as small as you want. And then you're going to take your spray bottle and spray a little bit of water on. You don't want too much, but you want enough so it'll actually transfer onto your paper. And then very carefully, making sure you don't splatter water everywhere, put it onto your paper, and then you want to kind of smear it all around so it blends and kind of makes that watercolory look to it. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. You're going to let it sit for about a minute while continuing to press it down to make sure it really gets smeared. And then you're just going to remove the plastic bag. And then that's when you're going to take your towels and blot off some of that extra water, because otherwise it'll make a mess and get everywhere. And just kind of help to dry it off a little bit. And then once it has completely dried, you are going to have to leave it for a little bit, or you can also use a blow dryer as well. That works. Once it's completely dry, you can take a marker and you can decorate it, you can write on it, you can do anything with it. So that's what's kind of nice about this, is it dries pretty quickly as well. Sometimes I use a blow dryer when I don't want to wait for it to dry, but it's usually dry within a couple of minutes, especially if you do that step of blotting it with the towel. Now, this next method of doing watercolor requires watercolor paint, and it also requires a little bit of practice. This is the watercolor set that I have. I will link it down below for those of you who would like to purchase it. You'll need a cup of water, you'll need a paintbrush, and then I'm using the exact same paper that I used before. But again, you could use normal paper, you just might want to put something underneath it. So basically you're just going to start by putting your paintbrush into the water and painting as you would, just picking the colors that you want. Again, I'm kind of going with like a purpley bluey theme for this one. So you do want to pick colors that will complement each other, because otherwise it doesn't really look very good. And really there's no right way to do this. You can honestly, as long as you picked your colors and stuff, you can kind of just take your colors and put them all over the page. Like, they don't have to go in a certain way. That's what's kind of the beauty of watercolor, is you don't have to be super talented. Like, I have not made very many like this, and they still always kind of look cool even if they're not like super pretty in the process. And the more water that you put on it, on your paintbrush, the darker it's going to look, and the less water you have on your paintbrush, the lighter that the color is going to look. So that's kind of like a little bit of advice for you, I guess. You can kind of play around with different colors and different shades of the same color and get a really cool result. And you kind of want to, the one thing with watercolor that you do want to do is, just like how you would have smeared it in the last one, you do kind of want to go over other colors with other colors so they kind of look more blended together. And you kind of blend it all out again at the end once you're finished, which I'll show at the end of the painting. But yeah, it does take some practice, but it's not super hard to learn. Just kind of paint where you want to paint with the colors that you want to paint, and just see how it turns out. Honestly, you might actually be surprised at how good it ends up looking at the end. And now when you're finished, you're just going to take your cup of water and like no paint on it, but this will really help blend it together. Just paint over the whole thing with water, and this will help the blending a lot. Again, you can decorate this as you want once it's dried, but make sure it is fully dry, because otherwise you might rip your paper. So anyways, I hope that you guys enjoyed this tutorial and that it was helpful for you, and that you will try one of these methods. And if you did enjoy this video, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe, because I post new videos on every Tuesday and Friday. And other than that, I hope that you guys have a great day or night.
Because I want the next 20 years to be about me.